Chapter 1739 The Giant Buddha. Chapter 1739 The Giant Buddha. All the cultivators looked grim. Exactly what kind of battle broke out on this battlefield of the past? And how many people fell among them? Now this dusty space had reappeared, and a piece of history was buried within it. Ahead, the Buddhist cultivators from Tianxian Temple of the Mountain Realm stopped. Rays of light of Buddha burst out from them, illuminating the space. This terrible light of Buddha lit up the front, and an infinitely boundless figure of an evil demon was seen. Behind that great demon, countless other demons gnashed their teeth and flung their claws. It was as if those who had fallen into hell had now come back to life once again. Beneath the light of Buddha, those elusive shadows continued to be destroyed and shattered madly. Obviously, these were not real physical bodies, but the remnant will of the fallen that still remained behind in this world, which were now being purified into nothingness under the light of Buddha. Seeing this, many people seemed to realize something at the same time, and the cultivators from all sides began accelerating their movement forward and rushed toward the direction of the monks from Tianxian Temple, who were leading the way. Witnessing this, Futian became contemplative. Before, everyone was counting on the masters of Tianxian Temple to lead the way. Now it seemed that they had other ideas. Let's go too. Futian spoke up as he too was speeding forward. After a while, they were not far behind the cultivators from Tianxian Temple. All the major forces had caught up to them now, and were spread out in different directions. Under the light of Buddha, the evil demon retreated. However, straight ahead, there was a skeleton sitting cross-legged. This skeleton had not decayed for hundreds of years, just sitting there quietly, but there was no longer any breath of life that could be detected from it, only the air of death. The will of death surrounded this withered skeleton, someone who had fallen long ago. However, what was really terrifying was that those dried bones radiated an unusually bright light, the light of darkness. This dark light was extremely horrific, like a dark ancient tome that had melted into his body. This ancient tome seemed to have many pages, and between the pages, one could faintly detect terrifying loneliness permeating from them. The immortal divine wheel. Some people marched toward it. This divine wheel of the great path, even with the destruction of its owner, still had not decayed. More terrifying than the flesh, it had now turned into a strange treasure. A hint of greed flashed across the eyes of many, especially those latecomers who were from Juyo City. Every one of them walking forward, getting very close. Clearly, even if they had no ability to compete with the supreme powers, it did not mean that they would easily give it up. This thing is more suitable for the cultivators of our hidden land realm. Those of you who came from afar, it is useless to you even if you get it. It is better to let the hidden land realm have it. At this moment someone spoke. It was a cultivator from the clan of the god of Ghost. Not only him, but all the supreme forces from the hidden land realm were clearly extremely enticed. The fallen figure that was sitting here was definitely someone of great power. Everyone was very quiet when they heard his words, and no one made a response. In the face of treasure, who would easily hand over to the others? What's more, there were so many principalities in attendance today. Almost all the forces of the 9 realms were present. Even if one force would be willing to acquiesce, what about the others? Let's say we will let the hidden land realm have it. Later, when we encounter other treasures, can the forces from the hidden land realm guarantee not to fight us for them? At this time, someone spoke up, and it was the cultivator from the Solar Divine Palace. Just like that, these words silenced several major forces from the hidden land realm. Could they guarantee that? No one would dare to make such a guarantee. They had just entered this hellish battlefield. Who knew what would happen next? If they encountered a better, more powerful treasure, could they promise not to fight for it? Obviously not. If none of you can make such a promise, then let's forget about bounds and realms. It belongs to whoever that can take it. The cultivator of the Solar Divine Palace said indifferently. If the hidden land realm wanted to claim this area, could they really allow everything that appeared here to be possessed by the hidden land realm alone? Buzz. A figure flickered rapidly and slaughtered directly toward the seated skeleton, like a black faded shadow, fast to the limit. The person who made a move was a cultivator of the clan of the god of Ghost. If it had to be taken by force, he would be the first one to make a move. Rumble. A terrifying suppression of the great path descended, and the speed of the cultivator from the clan of the God of Ghosts came to an abrupt halt. The cultivator of Prison Fort clan stepped forward, whose every step was incredibly heavy, suppressing the void. The forces from the Hidden Land realm, as expected, took the lead in fighting for the treasure. Master Pudu glanced at them, then folded his hands together, chanting the sound of Buddha, and stepping forward. He continued walking from above the sky, ignoring the situation below. One after another, cultivators took action. In an instant, with the desiccated skeleton as the center, many with great power began to compete, and all the supreme-level principalities in the Hidden Land realm had entered the arena. They had a very good idea who this fallen figure was. A terrifying existence with great power had once come from the Hidden Land realm. Their strength was so powerful that it struck fear in the hearts of many. His divine will was extremely dominant, and was once famous throughout the Hidden Land realm. If so, how could they miss this chance? Shen Luoxue glanced at Yi Futian, who was beside her. "Grandma, let's continue on our journey." Yi Futian's demeanor was very calm as he took a look at the cultivators from Tianxian Temple, who kept marching forward. Shen Luoxue nodded, and everyone followed their lead and bypassed the battlefield. Gradually, there were some forces that decided to get involved in this battle, but there were also others that decided to give up. Clearly, in their opinion, it was not worth fighting here. Perhaps, there would be something else they wanted more as they continued onward. Yi Futian and the others continued forward. A horrible breath came from behind them. It was a storm of the great path. But the group continued on, as if nothing was happening behind them. But there were still many ghostly evil shadows present in this space, all of which were annihilated under the light of Buddha, which seemed to have been released by the Buddha. The crowd stepped into a mountainous area, and in a gorge, a bloody demon sword appeared. Its horrific bloody light filled the sky, staining the sky crimson as blood. This sword was buried in the ground. It seemed to be broken, but there was still an astonishing aura that permeated from it. Within hundreds of meters around the magic sword, a terrifying area of destruction had formed. Anyone who approached would be wiped out by its sword will. There were more cultivators now plunging forward. This time, no one even bothered saying anything before lunging into the raid. Yi Futian looked at them without much interest. In the god's relic, he had gotten himself an entire treasure trove of ritual implements. After that, ordinary ritual implements did not interest him at all. Even if he had them, they would not mean much to him. That was unless it was a very special ritual implement, or an implement above the Runhuang realm. Technically, it then could no longer be considered a ritual implement, but a divine item, and its power would go far beyond something like ritual implement. Yi Futian's group continued onward, except for some who chose to fight over the implements that appeared. People from most other forces chose to avoid the conflict and kept moving. This ancient battlefield, it seemed, could bring them some surprises. And not just the gate of hell. This space, long since been sealed, was amazingly boundless, and even their divine spirits could only reach a limited distance and were extremely affected. At this moment, the speed of the cultivators at the mountain realm suddenly increased. This realization alarmed many, but they followed along on the journey. In the front, there was a very solemn breath, and even though they were still very far away, they could vaguely perceive the tyranny of this breath. "What is that?" Yi Futian secretly remarked to himself. Not only did he feel it, but Shen Luoxue and the other cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate Academy had also sensed it. There were other principalities. Shen Luochuan of the Shen clan showed a curious look in his eyes. It seemed as if he could see through the endless void. Unconsciously, their speed was still accelerating, almost turning them into light streamers that shuttled in this space. The majestic and solemn aura became even stronger, and gigantic buildings could be made out vaguely in the front. That terrifying aura originated from there. These majestic giant buildings obscured the sky. The closer they got, the more they realized just how gigantic these buildings really were, which was tens of thousands feet high. As they were approaching, a horrible aura made it difficult for everyone to move forward. Finally, They were able to see clearly what those objects were. This, Futian looked shocked. His eyes were fixed on the sight in front of him. Those giant objects were not buildings but statues. They were statues that were once cultivators. Two majestic statues stood opposite to one another. One was a Buddha, and the other a demon. One statue shone with the endless light of Buddha. Its entirety was composed of a golden body. The other statue was of an evil demon. Its whole body was pitch black. These two boundless and majestic figures seemed to have died in a seated posture. And around them, there were giant statues, all of which released an extremely tyrannical aura. But there was no aura of life, as they had fallen many years ago. The cultivators of Tianxian Temple walked up to the Buddha statue. All of them sat cross-legged, reciting the sound of Buddha in extreme piety, as if they were paying respect to their ancestor. Here, the fallen cultivator was indeed their ancestor, the ancient Buddha. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1740 The Ancients. Chapter 1740 The Ancients. Futian looked at the cultivators from the mountain realm, the sound of Buddha lingering in the air. Seeing their pious demeanor, Futian knew that this ancient Buddha must have had some connection with the mountain realm. Vajra Buddha, Shen Luoxua said in a low voice. She then clasped her hands and bowed to the Buddha statue. Clearly, this ancient Buddha was an ancestor whom she respected. It's the senior brother of the current abbot of Tianxian Temple, the grand uncle of Master Pudu. Next to him, Hua Jiangshan from the celestial gate of vast heaven made the presentation to Futian. I heard that it was he should have been the abbot of Tianxian Temple, but the Vajra Buddha gave that position to his junior brother, while he chose to cast out and to slay the demons. It was said that the Vajra Buddha was known as the premier ancient fighting Buddha of the mountain realm, whose fighting skill was incomparable amongst his peers. Discussion arose among the people who had gathered around, especially those from the older generations, who knew much more about the people and things back then. Once the Vajra Buddha was a powerful figure. As he did not desire to be an abbot, he chose to wander through the land alone. It was said that he liked to go around bare feet, and wore a tattered robe, subsisted on alms. He made peace in the world and cast out the demons and ghosts. He was a maverick, and unlike many Buddhist cultivators, he hated evil. There was a Buddhist saying that the Buddha was made at the moment when the sword was put down. But he was different. When he encountered a demon, there was only one thing that he did, and it was to release the demon to the afterworld. Here must have been his final stand. However, he stayed here forever as well. Many people looked toward the statue opposite the Vajra Buddha. Although this one had fallen for many years, there was still a terrifying breath hanging about him, which prohibited others from approaching. Those eyes seemed to hold a terrible demonic light even now. Once upon a time, the king of hell in the hidden land realm was hailed as the strongest existence in hell. When he was alive, many from the older generations who were present now would tremble when they saw him. For several major forces in the hidden land realm, this king of hell was also a most legendary figure. At the peak of his power, he was the king of the entire hidden land realm, and other supreme forces dared not disobey his will outright. He had wanted to launch a war of conquest that would turn the 3,000 realms of the Great Path into a world of hell. And now his body was also found sealed here. Many prominent figures from the hidden land realm had a burning looking in their eyes. This was the king of hell. These two statues that lay in front of them, connected with the other statues, were like a mountain range, turning into a continuous mountain cliffs. They shielded the sky and the sun, separating it from the rest of the world, as if this were the end of this space. What was revealed before them caused many cultivators to be concerned. The previous rumors were that the gate of hell had appeared, but now, they had seen two legends. So where was the gate of hell? Unless it was sealed here by all these statues? What was behind the statues? Was here the end of this hellish battlefield? Furthermore, endless Buddhist writings appeared on the statue of the Vajra Buddha. Under the chanting of the sound of Buddha by the cultivators from Tianxian Temple, the light of Buddha on his body became extremely fervent, illuminating this dark space. It seemed that a magical and overbearing strength was beginning to awaken. Many looked surprised. Could they really have woken up the Vajrabuddha? Underneath the sound of Buddha, they could vaguely make out an elusive shadow of an ancient Buddha appeared upon the statue of the Vajrabuddha. It was not real, but it was getting bigger. It was as if it had been separated out from the statue. A mighty breath enveloped the sky, and everyone seemed to be able to feel an unbearable pressure of might. That ancient Buddha had anger in his eyes, and an incredibly brazen light of Buddha fell from the statue. All the Buddhist cultivators from the mountain realm looked there. Afterward, many of them clasped their hands together and closed their eyes to comprehend. When Futian saw this, he had a look of curiosity. It wasn't just the Vajrabuddha, but all the statues of the ancient Buddha behind him were also blooming with the blazing light of Buddha. It was as if it were being awakened. In this instant, the light of Buddha suppressed the darkness, and the endless brilliance spread toward the battlefield of hell. The power of destruction seemed to be expelled and purified, and many remaining wills were supremely purified. The world on this side seemed to be brightened. An endless Buddha now appeared. It was all Buddha returning to the source. Many people turned their heads to behold the awesome earth-shaking sight. However, at this time, many turned their attention to the dark statue, the King of Hell. Cultivators from the Hidden Land realm had rushed from behind, including the people of the Supreme Forces and the cultivators of Juyo City. They looked at the gigantic and boundless dark shadow, that of the King of Hell, as if they felt a terrifying power from it. As all this was playing out, the dark figure of the King of Hell, likewise, released a terrifying light of darkness and destruction. Darkness enveloped the land, and shadows covered the light of Buddha. For a moment, this dark light and the flaming light of Buddha met and collided in the air, entangled. Don't aid the evildoers. The sound of Buddha rang throughout the void, loud and clear. It was as if spoken by the ancient Buddha in the void. However, the speaker in fact was Master Pudu. His figure appeared beneath the statue of the ancient Buddha, hands clasped, standing there quietly with his head bowed. His countenance was dignified and solemn, bathing in the light of Buddha. He seemed to be incarnated as a Buddha. However, no one from the other party paid any attention to him. From the two statues, everyone was able to feel their power. These Buddhist cultivators from Tianxian Temple were able to perceive the Buddhist doctrine from their ancestor, the Vajrabuddha. The others cultivated differently. They could perceive great power from the statue of the King of Hell. When darkness enveloped the earth, the destructive power of the entire hellish battlefield converged toward them. This power was horrific, and gave them a taste of the power from the King of Hell. If they were allowed to continue, they could get strength from it. Under such circumstances, there was no way they could give up and allow these Buddhist cultivators to inherit the power of the ancient Buddha. Seeing the altercation between the two sides, many had an uncertain look on their faces, but most of the principalities decided to maintain their neutral stance. They stood aside and looked on quietly. This is very possibly the key to the gate of hell, Futian said in a low voice. The forces of hell had lured the cultivators from the 9 realms to here. Its purpose could very well be to reopen the gate of hell. Judging from the sight before him, the gate of hell may very well be related to these two statues. However, the question at hand was, should they let the Buddha suppress the evil, or just let them do whatever they wanted? Futian looked in the front. The battle between this ancient Vajrabuddha and the King of Hell, even many years after their fall, seemed to be continuing. In such a case, perhaps most people would choose to stay out of it. Just as he thought, all the principalities just watched on the side quietly, let the two sides confronting each other, curious to see what change would happen here. Rumble. The vast and endless space trembled. Many raised their heads to look up at the sky above. There seemed to be a gigantic Buddha standing in the middle of the light of Buddha. This sight ignited much interest among the people. It was Master Pudu. Futian also revealed a look of surprise. He lowered his head and looked down. Master Pudu's physical body was still sitting under the ancient Buddha, quietly chanting. His eyes were closed tightly, as the light of Buddha dazzled around him, as if he was a Buddha suspended in time. However, his spirit was still traveling beyond the sky, having inherited the will of the Vajra Buddha. The power of the infinite way of the Buddha gathered upon him. In the void, Master Pudu was getting stronger, as if he was incarnated as the Vajra Buddha of yore. Peace is only possible if hell is suppressed here forever, a voice uttered from the ancient Buddha in the void. They had arrived to awaken the Vajra Buddha, to call upon him to suppress the evil spirits once again, sealing this battlefield or purify it with Buddhist doctrine. But at this moment, the destructive power of the entire hellish battlefield roared toward this side. In the void, there were several figures that condensed and appeared. Several top figures had awakened the power of the King of Hell, but there were really 3 major cultivators. Each one of them seemed to represent a kind of power. Hell has been sealed already, and only its power was left. The so-called legend is nothing more than an elusive idea. Even so, each may cultivate without interference with one other. A voice was heard, and the speaker was a cultivator from the fate world. He seemed to have turned into a god of destruction, standing in the void. The power of endless destruction gathered upon his body. Extremely terrifying. Was this a competition of the Great Path? Many people stared at the magnificent sight in front of them. The entire hellish battlefield was in turmoil. In this battlefield, the power of destruction, and other powers of the Great Path, was already stronger than they were elsewhere. When they were awakened, they actually suppressed the blazing light of Buddha that had previously shrouded the sky above. Master Pudu puts his hands together, and a dazzling light of Buddha bloomed upon that giant and boundless ancient Buddha. The light of purification could purify all the powers of evil in the world. Wherever the light of Buddha passed through, the way of destruction was purified into nothingness, as the light rushed toward the 3 phantasmal figures that had appeared. However, at this time, the space suddenly turned into absolute darkness. The light of purification descended, but the darkness was not dispersed. At the same time, the light of Buddha seemed to be corroded bit by bit, decaying as it was being penetrated. At this moment, the light of Buddha on a figure that stood under the statue of the ancient Buddha became ever more radiant. It was Guizong. The countless light of Buddha enveloped his body. He seemed to be wandering beyond the sky, as if he had been called upon by the ancestors. When the power of the Buddhist clan resonated together, he appeared high above the sky, as if he had turned into a Buddha himself. These 2 are truly frightful. They have long been sealed here, but their power could still be felt by us today, someone whispered. Many people were looking that way, and every cultivator had more or less perceived a strong resonance. Futian had a peculiar look in his eyes. He could perceive a majestic might of way from both statues. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1741 Mysterious Person. Chapter 1741 Mysterious Person Rumble. Frightening rumbles could be heard across the entire hell battlefield. The vast space trembled. The countless statues trembled even more intensely. In the blazing light of Buddha, a sphere of light appeared. The light sphere was extremely frightening. It appeared to be a lamp. What was that? The cultivators revealed strange looks. They could sense that it contained frightening power. The light of the Buddhist lamp did not seem too bright as it shone out. In an instant, the endless evil and destructive power was immediately dissipated by the light of the lamp. Everywhere the light of the lamp shone upon, the darkness was banished. The expressions of the surrounding cultivators all changed. They felt an intense will. This will was one of the great paths of Buddha. Releasing souls from purgatory was one of the strongest powers of Vajra Buddha back in the day. The Buddhist lamp was probably a Buddhist treasure. Vajra Buddha used his unparalleled power to refine a Buddhist lamp. He even merged the power of his own soul into it. After many years, the Buddhist lamp was once again lit. It still had the unparalleled power to release souls from purgatory. It was especially effective at countering the dark and destructive powers of the Great Path. A treasure. Strange looks flashed past in the eyes of many people. This same idea emerged within their minds, especially for the cultivators of the mountain realm. The strongest forces in the mountain realm were all Buddhist cultivators. Upon encountering a Buddhist treasure, How could they not want it? For instance, the members of Shinshin clan, who were known as false Buddhas, had greedy looks flashing in their eyes right now. It was actually a Buddhist treasure. At that moment, someone looked at the light of Buddha that grew brighter and brighter. It was activated by the power of Buddha. The slumbering power was also awakened. The crowd also saw a Buddhist pagoda. The pagoda was carved with many patterns. Each illustration was that of an ancient Buddha. When these patterns all lit up at the same time, the various Buddhas awakened. In the heavens above, countless illusions of Buddhas gradually appeared. Futian raised his head and looked into the sky. The activated power grew stronger. It was as though they were returning to the ancient battlefield, to that frightening war. An even more frightening explosion occurred. The seals on the statues kept shattering. The ends of this region of space seemed to have been shattered. Aside from the appearance of a Buddhist treasure, a ritual implement of the King of Hell also appeared and released frightening power. A god of ghost banner appeared in the sky above. On it, there were silhouettes of endless ghosts and demons. It was as though Yaksa and Ashura had awakened to withstand the Buddhas in the sky. This caused the mighty figures of clan of the god of ghosts to tremble intensely inside. They recognized this god of ghost banner. Back in the day it was feared by all. After that they saw another ritual implement. It was a huge trident that was similarly a frightening weapon many years ago. Something is going to happen, Hua Jiangshan said in a low voice when he saw this scene. It was not just him. All the cultivators were staring straight ahead. Behind the shattered stone wall, the sealed-off space was gradually revealed. It was a towering dark palace. However, right now it was in ruins. Inside it was hell that had disappeared. An unparalleled frightening aura emanated from within. If one looked further in, there was a space that resembled the depths of hell. It was a deep chasm with no bottom, seemingly forming a frightening hell swirl. It was like a door that led straight to hell. However, right in front of the door, there was a sword that stood stabbed into the ground. It was an emerald sword. Around it, there were Sarira beads circling it. When Nan Luotian saw this divine sword, a strange look flashed past in her eyes. The expressions of the cultivators of Nantian Divine Kingdom also changed. There were even quite a number of mighty figures that turned around and looked towards the direction where the members of Nantian Divine Kingdom stood. What is it? Nan Luotian looked at the elder beside her. She had seen this divine sword in the records of the clan's ancient manuscripts. Qingha. The cultivators beside the elder said, "It is the sword of His Highness." The appearance of this sword meant that Emperor Nan had participated in the battle to eradicate hell back then. The gate of hell. Everyone's gazes were staring straight ahead. That door should be the gate of hell. What was beyond the gate of hell? Rumor has it that the sealing and unsealing of the gate of hell would involve Emperor-level forces. Rumble. At that moment, another silhouette appeared from within the 10,000 zhang tall light of Buddha. The eyes of this silhouette contained an evil aura. Although his body was permeated with the light of Buddha, he walked directly towards the Buddhist lamp. "Vermin," a cold voice cried out. In the direction of Tianxian Temple, a monk walked towards him. The light of Buddha burned even brighter. The monk actually became a towering Vajra Buddha. Many people revealed bizarre looks when they witnessed this scene. There was an inheritor of Vajra Buddha? The eyes of this monk were like an angry Vajra. An ancient Buddha appeared behind him. He raised his hand and charged in the direction where the cultivators from the Shinshin clan of the mountain realm were. This giant palm of Vajra was indestructible. It shattered the space and descended downwards. The silhouette that invaded the light of Buddha was a cultivator of the Shinshin clan. They wanted to seize the opportunity to steal the Buddhist treasure. Bang! A loud bang could be heard. A huge giant palm of Vajra immediately appeared on the ground. A handprint was clearly marked there. The members of the Shinshin clan retreated far away. Beneath their feet, a divine light shone. Their speed was unbelievably fast. Among the members of the Shinshin clan, one cultivator was still resting with his eyes closed and communicating with an ancient Buddha. On top of a Buddha statue, a huge foot stomped down. It actually descended upon Master Pudu. Right now, Master Pudu was still countering the awakened power of the King of Hell. A huge Buddha immediately appeared beside Master Pudu. The cultivators of Tianxian Temple immediately attacked. their figures stepping onto the Buddha statues. "Let's go," the cultivators of the Shinshin clan said. Cultivators of the Shinshin clan immediately stepped into mid-air. They instantly disappeared from their positions and charged towards the Buddha statues. Elsewhere, the various forces of the Hidden Land realm also attacked. Aside from activating the power of the King of Hell, they also began to pillage the treasures of the King of Hell. They also had their eyes set on Hell Palace. Hell was previously the most prosperous force in the Hidden Land realm. How could they possibly let this chance slip past them? What are your thoughts, everyone? Shen Luochuan from the Shen clan asked the various cultivators. Right now, various cultivators were scattered across different regions. However, their gazes were all staring at the Buddha statues before them. Everyone has not forgotten the age of turmoil back then, right? A cultivator of the mountain realm said. This was clearly a reminder for everyone. However, the expression in the eyes of the cultivators did not change at all. The age of turmoil? Many cultivators had fallen during the age of turmoil. However, it also gave birth to many heroes. A good number of top figures displayed their talents in battles during that era. Some of them had even left the confinement of this sky. In comparison, the current age had fewer changes. It was as though everything had been set. Dong Huang the Great hoped for the world of cultivation to be strong and stable. But wasn't it in itself a form of imprisonment? In the end, this place was still not the real world. Besides, nobody knew what they would activate. Dong Huang the Great did not order anyone to stop today's occurrence too. Did it mean that everything that was happening now was fated too? Buzz. With a flash, a group of top figures dashed across the space and pounced on the Buddha statues in front of them. They were none other than cultivators of the solar divine palace. They emanated unparalleled divine light of the sun, and step by step, they walked towards the Buddhist lamp. Clearly, greed had gotten hold of them, and they also wanted to snatch this Buddhist treasure. As Hua Jiangshan had expected, this was spiraling into something terribly grave. Yi Futian thought to himself when he saw the scene. Who should we help? Yi Futian muttered. Under such circumstances, who should the Heavenly Mandate Academy help? Which side should they be on? Moreover, there were more than two standpoints now. Each force had its own point of view. Just when Yi Futian was still considering who he should help, a group of cultivators closed in on his party. Many of the cultivators who were observing the battle in the distance besieged them. Among these cultivators, Yi Futian saw a few familiar faces. It was Hierophant Juyo and his party. Obviously, they were here for Yaya, so they targeted Yi Futian's group. However, the leader this time was not Hierophant Juyo. Instead, it was a very young-looking man. His pupils emanated terrifying dark light. He seemed cold and demonic. He looked like he was at a similar age with Yi Futian, but his actual age could not be determined. Yi Futian could clearly sense that this youth was extremely dangerous. Be careful, Shen Luoxua warned Yi Futian through a secret sound transmission. She also felt threatened by this demonic and handsome youth. This youth was strong, very strong. However, no one from the crowd actually recognized this youth. It was as though he had never appeared before. In fact, this was also his first time appearing in public. Up until now, he had always been in the shadows. Hand her over to me, and you can live, the youth demanded while sweeping a glance at Qingyao, who was standing beside Yaya. His voice was sinister. A domineering aura permeated through his indifferent tone. His gaze was emotionless, but it contained absolute confidence. By handing Qingyao over to him, they could live. What if they didn't want to hand her over? Who are you? Yi Futian asked. Why was this mysterious person so determined to seize Qingyao? Which force did this demonic youth come from? If he was from one of the forces in the Hidden Land realm, his tone would at least be a little less presumptuous. Currently, none of the forces in the Hidden Land realm would dare to threaten the Heavenly Mandate Academy like this. The demonic youth glanced at Yi Futian. His gaze was indifferent. He extended both his hands, and suddenly, myriads of dark light surged into his body from all corners of the hell battlefield. The youth raised his head, and streaks of dark lines appeared on his face. His body transformed into a terrifying swirl, and was frenziedly engulfing all the energy around him. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. When the lightning descended, it seemed as though it would destroy the world and everything in it. The cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate Academy had extremely serious expressions. Even Hua Jiangshan felt an intensely terrifying threat from the demonic youth. So powerful. The great path of destruction was truly terrifying. Protect the juniors. I will lead him away, Shen Luoxue said. There was a somewhat stern gaze in her eyes. It was obvious that the demonic youth that had appeared had caused her to feel threatened. All right. The rest nodded in reply. They all had serious expressions. If this demonic youth was not led away, it would indeed be very dangerous. Shen Luoxue flew up into the sky alone. The spatial storm enveloped the vast and endless space and covered the land. When the divine spatial halo was released, the storm enveloped the entire sky. Rumble. The will of the demonic youth shifted, and the destructive river of the great path swept down from the sky. The dark lightning seemed to have the power of judgment, and wanted to destroy everything in the world. In the instance that the power erupted, the divine spatial halo was completely unleashed. Beams of spatial light traversed the space. The divine spatial halo that burst forth from Shen Luoxue's figure held up this part of the sky. The dark lightning and the golden divine light collided in midair. The next moment, endless strands of spatial light were woven into a spatial road. Under the destructive power, the silhouettes of the demonic youth and Shen Luoxue immediately disappeared from their spots. Many people raised their heads and looked up into the air. In the instant that the two of them disappeared, the dark, destructive power and the golden strands of spatial light frenziedly collided in midair. Even though the two of them had disappeared, frightening bolts of dark lightning were still rampaging. After both of them disappeared, Hierophant Jiuyo and the others once again charged towards Yi Futian's group. Last time, the cultivators from various forces came and were prepared to stand against them. Hence, Hierophant Jiuyo and the others could only retreat. However, in this hell battlefield, no one would help Yi Futian's group. As expected, even if the other forces knew that Hierophant Jiuyo and the others might be related to hell, this time, the cultivators of various forces did not interfere. They merely observed from the sidelines or focused on pillaging treasures. The Vajra Buddha statue, the King of Hell statue, the Hell Palace, and the Gate of Hell. In such a chaotic situation, who would bother to help Yi Futian's group? Yi Futian's figure turned, and his gaze shifted towards the two statues. His gaze became extremely scary. These two statues were once two giant figures, peerless, frightening existences. Even though they had fallen in battle here, their wills still lingered until now. Even being able to activate a portion of their power was already extremely terrifying. An illusory silhouette suddenly appeared on the Buddha statue. The illusory silhouette that formed was Yi Futian's silhouette. This scene caused the people beside him to be stunned. Some of them looked at Yi Futian's illusory silhouette with strange looks. Yi Futian was not a cultivator of Buddha. Could he also actually communicate with the will of the ancient Buddha? Yi Futian's silhouette quietly stood there, sensing its surroundings. Right now, on Yi Futian's actual body, the glorious light of Buddha actually also radiated. It was as though he was watching an ancient scene. It was the scene of the two pinnacle figures battling. Suddenly, a Buddha statue seemed to light up. It appeared in the sky above, followed by a second Buddha statue. Above the Vajra Buddha, illusions of Buddhas appeared and resonated with the Buddha statue on the pagoda. On top of the pagoda, the light of Buddha shone in all directions. The Buddha statues all lit up. It was as though the various Buddhas had awakened. Terrifying will of Buddha burst forth. It actually caused the people who wanted to pillage the pagoda to be sent flying backward from the shockwave. What was happening? Many people revealed strange looks. They could not help but look at Yi Futian's silhouette. The person who was activating the will of Vajra Buddha was actually him? Master Guizong, please bless me, Yi Futian cried out. Master Guizong also activated the will of Buddha. The Buddhist lamp seemed to light up and grow brighter. After hearing Yi Futian's request, Master Guizong placed his hands together. The light of Buddha shone brightly on Yi Futian's illusory silhouette. With the support of Master Guizong, Yi Futian's will became powerful once again. Rumble. An intense rumbling sound could be heard. More and more Buddha statues appeared in midair. It was all Buddhas returning to the source. Astonished, Master Pudu glanced at Yi Futian. The light of the pagoda shone at its brightest. In the sky, all Buddhas appeared. Yi Futian shut his eyes tightly. This was not his own power. It was the will of Vajra Buddha. Even though Vajra Buddha had long passed away, his will did not dissipate. His will lingered in every corner of this space. Not only was the will of Vajra Buddha lingering here, but the will of the King of Hell also remained in this space. Hence, the cultivators could borrow the will of these two mighty figures to fight. Everyone could sense the will of Vajra Buddha and the will of the King of Hell. They were two distinct powers. The more similar the cultivation of a cultivator with one of the wills, the easier it was for the cultivator to sense and activate the will. Yi Futian could sense the wills left behind by both mighty figures. Both wills were extremely terrifying. Through the will of Vajra Buddha, Yi Futian could see various deities and all Buddhas in the heavens. They were in the battlefield of hell, but the appearance of various Buddhas gradually suppressed the destructive power. All Buddhas had emerged. It was no doubt the technique all Buddhas returning to the source. Rumble. A vigorous rumbling sound reverberated. The enormous Buddha statue started moving, accompanied by thunderous sounds. The 10,000 zhang tall Buddha statue lifted up his arm slowly. The dust accumulated on his arm was shaken off. The arm turned golden in color. The entire body of the Buddha statue was shining brilliantly. This arm was raised up to the sky. The light of Buddha radiated, and its power merged into the arm. The power even circled around it. The pagoda also released endless divine light that complemented it. All the cultivators, regardless of which force they were from, were shocked when they witnessed this scene. This was all Buddha's Vajramadra, the greatest attack of Vajra Buddha. This attack shook the world in the past. Once all Buddha's Vajramadra was activated, it would kill all the evils in the world. Right now this technique was actually reenacted in this space. Moreover, the cultivator that activated it was actually Yi Futian, instead of the cultivators of Tianxian Temple. At this moment, many cultivators recalled what Yi Futian said when they were at the God's Relic. He received the teachings of Donghuang the Great, and was blessed by all the deities. Hell initiated the chaos of the 9 realms. Everyone, are you going to perpetuate this evil deed? Yi Futian said loudly. All of you please back off. As soon as he finished speaking, a powerful rumble sounded. All Buddha's Vajramadra slashed forward at the statue of the King of Hell. All the deities stood high in the sky, unleashing their finishing moves all at once. The heavens and earth resonated with their attacks. Many of the evil illusory figures activated by cultivators were directly crushed by the light of Buddha Madra. Some illusory figures turned into ashes and disappeared without a trace even before they were hit. Countless cultivators frantically retreated. Under the attack of all Buddha's Vajramadra, the statue of the King of Hell shook violently. Then, the statue was pierced by streaks of golden lightning. One by one, a lot of the statues behind the King of Hell were blasted into pieces. Rumble. A loud thud sounded. The war seemed to have ended. The will remaining in the statue of the King of Hell scattered. Cracks appeared on the towering statue. The formidable ritual implement hung loosely at the side, as though it was about to drop to the ground at any minute. Vajra Buddha and the King of Hell fought each other when they were still alive, and their fight continued even after their death. However, their last battle just now was completed by the younger generations. Rumble. The Buddha statue was also disintegrating. It shattered bit by bit, and its will was also dissipating. However, Yi Futian did not stop there. The arm of Vajra Buddha rose up once again. It seemed to be an illusory arm. Make way, Yi Futian cried out. A terrifying resonating sound followed. All Buddha's Vajramadra crashed down towards another battlefield. The members of the Heavenly Mandate Academy naturally understood Yi Futian's intentions. Their figures instantly retreated. Hua Jiangshan's speed was extremely fast. He immediately withdrew from the battle with Hierophant Juyo. The next moment, all Buddha's Madra descended. Hierophant Juyo turned around and became a beam of black light that wanted to escape. The light of Buddha enveloped the endless space. Under the light of Buddha, nothing could escape. The flowing light that Hierophant Juyo turned into instantly disappeared far into the distance. However, the sound of Buddha still struck him from a distance. An astonishingly loud rumble followed. Hierophant Juyo was struck by all Buddha's madra. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1743 Upheaval. Chapter 1743 Upheaval. Qinghe Divine Sword, as well as the Saraira beads, guarded the gate of hell, forming a large matrix around it. Qinghe Divine Sword and the Saraira beads seemed to serve as the cores of the matrix, sealing the terrifying gate of hell. At the moment, there were still countless cultivators gushing towards this area. All of them intended to snatch Qinghe Divine Sword and the Saraira beads. However, as soon as they approached the treasures, they were crushed into pieces by streaks of light. A few Renhuangs had lost their lives. The gate of hell was unapproachable. Right now, there was a group of powerful cultivators of Buddha descending towards them. One of them had a terrifying aura. He was the deputy clan leader of the Xinxing clan. His ability was monstrous. His figure became that of a huge Buddha. Then with a stomp of his foot, a huge footprint stomped towards Qinghe Divine Sword and the Saraira beads. The Saraira beads circled around Qinghe Divine Sword. Qinghe Divine Sword released beams of divine emerald blades of light. The huge footprint disintegrated under the emerald blades of light. It was turned into countless fragments and then disappeared without a trace. The cultivators of the major forces of the Hidden Land realm were also all here. However, they could not approach at all. The power was too strong, as expected of Emperor Nan, who was one of the top existences in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. He was already so powerful so many years ago. After settling down in recent years, he had focused his attention onto his daughter, Nan Luotian. This caused many people to forget how terrifying he had once been. However, at that moment, the hell battlefield suddenly lit up with endless brilliant divine light. The light of Buddha lit up the sky. It was not the light of Buddha, released by the ancient Buddha statues. Rumbling sounds could be heard. A gigantic Buddha figure walked towards them. Every step that he took caused the ground to tremble. Many people stopped in their tracks and looked towards the direction of the incoming Buddha. A tall, slender, ancient Buddha with bare feet approached the cultivators. He was 100 jong tall. As he strode forwards, he left behind enormous footprints on the ground. He was the clan leader of the Xinxing clan. The facial expressions of many cultivators of the mountain realm changed. Even this old freak was drawn towards here. The happenings at this hell battlefield were getting more and more alarming. Huge figures started to make their entrances. Yi Futian's illusion borrowed the power of Vajra Buddha to immediately kill off Hierophant Juyo. Right now, Yi Futian was also looking in that direction. Rumbling sounds followed. The slim Buddha appeared before him. The Buddha was smiling until his eyes were but slits. When he saw the huge silhouette before him, Yi Futian sensed that even if he borrowed the power of the ancient Buddhas, he would not be a match for this clan leader at all. He was a giant-level existence. Little friend, this treasure is an item of Buddha. I will now take it away, the silhouette said with a smile. Then, he stretched out a huge palm and held the Buddhist lamp and pagoda in his palm. He took a look at the people around. He narrowed his eyes when he saw Master Pudu and Master Guizong. He lamented, "The monks of Tianxian Temple are indeed stronger than monks of my Xinxing clan." As he was speaking, he continued to move forward in the direction of the gate of hell. Xinxing. At the same time, a sonorous voice of Buddha sounded. The Xinxing clan leader looked up. In the sky, a golden Buddha appeared. Upon seeing the golden Buddha, monks from Tianxian Temple of the Mountain Realm put their palms together, bowed slightly, and chanted the sound of Buddha. The golden Buddha was their abbot. You should know the consequences of your actions, the Buddha said to the leader of the Xinxing clan. I know, but the great emperor is not interfering with our actions either, isn't he? The leader of the Xinxing clan challenged. In this case, What we are doing now is acceptable. Old monk, don't you want to have a look at the outside world? When the time comes, I will naturally go, the abbot replied. That's right. You are the proper heir of Buddha. You are different from me. I still want to have a look at the real world, the leader of the Xinxing clan said. What you see now is the truth, the abbot of Tianxian Temple said. Why must you lie to yourself? The leader of the Xinxing clan narrowed his eyes slightly while smiling. For many people, this is indeed the truth. However, when they reach the level you and I are at now, they will know that this is not real. This place is a sanctuary, the abbot of Tianxian Temple added. This is your sanctuary. The leader of the Xinxing clan smiled, his eyes narrowed. Then, he didn't look at the abbot anymore. He continued moving forward towards the Dark Hell Palace. He went up against Qinghe Divine Sword and the Saraira beads. When he moved close to the treasures, both the light of Buddha emanated by the Saraira beads, and the sword light of Qinghe Divine Sword landed on him. Sizzling sounds could be heard. His golden body of Buddha was actually shredding off bit by bit. It seemed to be hard for him to endure through it. The leader of the Xinxing clan glanced at himself. He muttered, "This is indeed the swordsmanship of spatial destruction. Emperor Nan is more powerful than me." His indestructible body was chipping off slowly. However, he continued pressing forward. He shouted, "Come out to help me now." As soon as he finished speaking, a few terrifying auras descended, and darkness loomed over the hell battlefield. More huge figures were coming. Cultivators of some forces of the Hidden Land realm had solemn expressions. Some of them bowed to salute the huge figures. Rumble. In the air, the loud sound of collisions could be heard. Shun Luoxua landed on the ground. She was forced to retreat due to the collision. In the sky, the demonic youth stood, and he glanced in the direction of Yi Futian. His gaze was full of disdain. He gazed at Yi Futian, as though the latter was already dead in his eyes. The demonic youth shifted his gaze and looked at the gate of hell. A glint of joy flashed past in his dark eyes. It had been a few hundred years since the gate of hell had appeared. He believed that many would be tempted to challenge their fate. He really missed the old times. One by one, the mighty figures arrived. Yi Futian returned to being himself. His heart quivered. The current situation was no longer something his party could meddle in. Initially, he thought someone was after the Heavenly Mandate Academy. He had not expected that the opponent's intention was grimmer, and was at a level that far surpassed his own. The opponents had their eyes fixed on the mighty figures of the 9 supreme realms. Yi Futian heard the conversation between the two Buddhas. Prior to this, he had heard similar words before. What did they mean exactly? The heavenly path collapsed, and the great path was flawed. What kind of world were they in now? Why did some say this was not the real world? Buzz. Another formidable aura descended. A silhouette landed beside Yi Futian. Lord Taixien. Yi Futian greeted when he saw the person. Lord Taixien had personally come over. Other than Lord Taixien, almost all the giant figures of the 9 supreme realms came here one by one. Lord Taixien stared straight ahead. He felt uneasy. He naturally could sense that something was about to take place. 300 years ago, his plane was still far away from where he was currently. After all, he had only broken the shackles not long ago. He broke through while Yi Futian was training on Taixien Mountain. Back in the day, he could not even be considered as one of the top figures. Hence, he only knew a tiny fraction of what happened in the past. Many old freaks knew much more than he did. Those cultivators, who had been standing at the peak of the top forces of the 9 supreme realms since many years ago, would naturally know more than Lord Taixien. Their knowledge would cover the battle of hell that happened in the past. However, 300 years ago, the powers that existed in the 9 realms were at an entirely higher level than that of the current age. During that era, many terrifying figures existed. Moreover, there were many different factions. For example, there was hell. Rumor had it that it was supported by an extremely formidable force. The mountain realm was also involved with many strong forces. Despite that, in the end, Dong Huang the Great and Emperor Yi Qing conquered and united the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. They put an end to the chaotic era. For the next 300 years, the 3,000 realms of the Great Path were peaceful. Now this gate of hell appeared again. Lord Taixian had no idea what kind of troubles would result because of it. Bang! Right at the moment, a Saraira bead was under attack. The leader of the Xinxing clan held on to it forcefully. A shocking power destroyed his palm, causing his palm to dry up and transform into bones gradually. Despite that, he was still hanging on to the Saraira bead tightly. Other cultivators seized the opportunity and launched their attacks at the same time. Some targeted the Saraira beads, while some tried to grab Qinghe Divine Sword. Green divine light covered the sky. Lord Taixian took a big step forward, and suddenly, a terrifying light shroud surrounded the cultivators. A destructive storm swept out and blew past everyone. The top figures who stood at the center of the storm were injured. However, the matrix was dismantled too. The Saraira beads were blasted everywhere, while Qinghe Divine Sword was shaking. Buzz! Green divine light shot up to the sky. The next moment, Qinghe Divine Sword traversed through space and went straight in the direction of the cultivators of Nantian Divine Kingdom. It plunged into the ground and transformed into a sword shroud, which enveloped the cultivators in it. Nan Luoshan was right in front of the sword. The sword knew its master. Luoshan, hold on to it. A voice was transmitted from the sword. Father! Nan Luoshan extended her hand and held Qinghe Divine Sword. Green light surged into her body. The sword will refine her body and caused her already beautiful figure to appear even more divine. Rumble! Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Without Qinghe Divine Sword and the Saraira beads as the seal, the terrifying storm stirred up by the gate of hell directly broke through the matrix. In an instant, the storm was about to engulf the entire space. It was charging towards the hell battlefield. Here it comes. A glint of joy flashed past in the eyes of the demonic youth. He then laughed presumptuously. After a few hundred years, it was finally here. Retreat! Someone shouted. The darkness consumed the sky. Many cultivators began to evacuate. Let's get out of here, Lord Taixian ordered. A powerful aura enveloped everyone in it. In the blink of an eye, everyone disappeared from their original spots. At Juyo City, in the sky above Yellow Spring, groups of silhouettes appeared gradually. The cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate Academy also appeared in the sky. The water of the Yellow Spring churned as though it was boiling. The water was splashed everywhere. Countless people stood in the sky above the two shores of the Yellow Spring. When they saw this scene, they were greatly shocked. Don't watch. Let's go, Lord Taixian cried out loudly. His voice was transmitted throughout the sky. Many people still had not made sense of what was happening. Then, they saw the water of the Yellow Spring flowing upstream and gushing out from the river to the sky. Right away, some people were flooded by the Yellow Spring. They let out a miserable cry before disappearing completely. Cultivators with strong cultivation tried to escape frenziedly. Amidst the water of the Yellow Spring, which was flowing upwards into the sky, countless dark currents were flushed upwards and shot up into the clouds. Many people focused their attention in that direction. There, a horrifying swirl of hell seemed to have appeared. It looked like a door. Dark light permeated the surrounding sky. The sky above Juyo City darkened gradually. It was as though doomsday had arrived. Death will envelop the entire city. Something bad is going to happen. Staring at the gradually darkening sky, many people had an ominous premonition about it. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1744 The Void Realm. Chapter 1744 The Void Realm. Everyone in Juyo City raised their heads and looked at the sky. Darkness enveloped the city. The gate of the hell became visible in the sky. It cast a shadow over all of Juyo City and completely blotted out the sky. The sky changed. Everybody in Juyo City understood that something big was about to happen. Futian also looked above. He heard in the past that the gate of the hell was related to the hell and showed the way to the real hell. But it was only a rumor. The real gate of the hell couldn't possibly be leading to the so-called hell in the folk tales. It didn't look like a grand matrix of space either. Then what was the gate of the hell? Does Lord Taixian know what this is? Futian asked. Coordinates, Lord Taixian replied. Yi Futian's eyes narrowed in concentration. Coordinates? Lord Taishian said the gate of the hell was a set of coordinates. The 3,000 realms of the Great Path in the present day were different before the twin great emperors unified the world. So were the forces that occupied the realms. The current 3,000 realms of the Great Path, especially the 9 supreme imperial realms, were formed after the unification. Some forces that were active in the past were destroyed just like the hell. Many more simply disappeared. Lord Taishian spoke slowly. Yi Futian felt unsettled. What did Lord Tianxuan's words mean? It meant that the 3,000 realms of the Great Path were not the only world. There were other realms as well. If that was the case, where were the other realms? If the gate of the hell was a set of coordinates, was it guiding the way for cultivators in other realms to come to the 3,000 realms of the Great Path? What did the real world look like? Luoxue should know more than I do. Lord Taishian looked at Shun Luoxue and said. Shun Luoxue was from the Shun clan, one of the most powerful forces in the 9 supreme imperial realms. She usually had much better information than ordinary folks. As a daughter of the clan lord of the Shun clan, she must have knowledge of some secrets. There are many different theories about what happened, but I indeed know a little bit more than other people. Shun Luoxue gazed at the stretch of the sky and replied. She was feeling quite emotional too. She never thought that she would witness this. To come back to the 9 realms was the true plan the hell had been plotting. At this time, no one was fussing about the dead and missing cultivators in the 9 realms anymore, as if they were already forgotten. It seemed to be such a trivial matter, comparing with what was happening in front of their eyes right now. Do you want to know? Shun Luoxue looked at Yi Futian. Yes, Yi Futian nodded and said. I heard that the empty imperial palace already made contact with you. I guess you will know about this sooner or later. The empty imperial palace has been preparing for this for a long time, and you're the one they chose. She raised her head and smiled at Yi Futian said, Sister Nianyu is so pretty. In Qingyao's eyes, Nianyu was beautiful, outgoing, and adored by everyone, just like the princesses she used to envy. She couldn't help but feel inferior to Qingyao. Qingyao is also pretty, Yi Futian said in a soft voice. Brother, I was just asking Sister Qingyao if she will stay here with me all the time. She said I need to ask you. You will let her stay, right? Nianyu raised her head and looked at Yi Futian with her puppy eyes, said, I finally have a sister to play with me. Qingyao heard Nianyu and also looked at Yi Futian. Her eyes were filled with both nervousness and eagerness. Of course. Yi Futian saw Qingyao's expression and replied with a smile. Brother, you're the best. Nianyu giggled. You're more familiar with our home. Shouldn't you look after your sister? Yi Futian asked. I will. Nianyu nodded. She stepped forward and picked up Qingyao's hand. I will take care of Sister Qingyao. Sister, let's go to pull Grandpa Xian's beard. Grandpa Xian is so funny. Yi Futian was at a loss for words. Lord Taishian was a legendary cultivator. To pull his beard? She thought that was funny. Only this little rascal dared to do it. Qingyao grinned and raised her head to look at Yi Futian. She was older and maturer than Nianyu. Besides, unlike Nianyu, she was not at home and couldn't behave with no scruples. She was worried that she might spoil the kindness that didn't come easily for her. Go ahead. Ask Sister Lulan if you want anything. She will take care of Nianyu and you. Yi Futian smiled and reassured her. Okay. Qingyao finally nodded. The 2 girls left holding hands. Yi Futian went to see Hua Jiyu after the girls left. Hua Jiyu caught sight of Yi Futian and stopped cultivating. She looked at him and said, You're back. Yes. Yi Futian walked closer to her and gently caressed her cheeks with both hands. The intimate move made Hua Jiyu's eyebrows twitch involuntarily. However, she enjoyed the intimacy. She was never repelled by Yi Futian. On the contrary, she felt close to him. In fact, Yi Futian had been slowly developing their relationship for the past few years. This was the real Jiyu in his eyes. Have you made any progress recently? Yi Futian asked. Yes. She nodded slightly. Yi Futian held her hand and sat down with her. They leaned on each other like passionate lovers. I heard that something big happened outside. Hua Jiyu said softly. Some things will happen, but we don't know how it will turn out yet. Yi Futian replied in a quiet voice. Hua Jiyu nodded in understanding and looked at him, said, "You should be careful out there." Yi Futian was surprised. He looked into Hua Jiyu's eyes and saw that she was gazing at him as well. She asked gently, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Yi Futian beamed with joy. Maybe she hadn't realized how she changed slowly and unobtrusively. "I will be careful just for your sake," Yi Futian said to her with tender. Then he gently put his arms around Hua Jiyu's waist. Hua Jiyu's body was stiff for a moment while an odd look flashed across her face. She stared at Yi Futian with her gorgeous eyes. Yi Futian looked at her as well. "You said I am your wife?" Hua Jiyu asked Yi Futian. "Yes," Yi Futian nodded. "Many people know about this." "Do husbands and wives act like this?" Hua Jiyu asked innocently. Yi Futian felt that she was wide-eyed like a blank piece of paper, ever since she came back from the Brahma's pure sky. She didn't understand anything besides cultivation. Yi Futian looked awkward, but he still nodded earnestly, said, "Not only this. Husbands and wives do something that's even more intimate." "More intimate?" Hua Jiyu gazed at him and asked, "Do they sleep together?" Why are you blushing?" Hua Jiyu looked at Yi Futian and said, "It's very hot here." Yi Futian was embarrassed. He never expected that a powerful Renhuang like him would get stuck in such a cringe-worthy conversation. "Oh." Hua Jiyu nodded, even though she didn't fully understand. Yi Futian took a good look at her face and smiled affectionately. Hua Jiyu also looked at him and wondered why his eyes were sparkling so strangely. Besides, he hadn't answered her yet. Plenty of things happened outside when Yi Futian was enjoying the affection and closeness. More and more cultivators popped up in Juyo City, all with intimidating power. Juyo City was a completely different place now. The arriving cultivators were even heading to the Hidden Land realm. Beyond that, mysterious cultivators also showed up in other realms one by one. Right now, a horrifying whirlwind took shape in the Central Emperor realm. Some people appeared out of thin air, as if they arrived at this world through a direct space pathway. These people took a deep breath upon their arrival. One person said, "The Void Realm. The Great Path here is even more fragmented. It's just as we expected. What a shame. The Void Realm has been exploited for hundreds of years." Another person laughed. "Regardless, it's still a worthy trip. After all, this is the original realm. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters." Chapter 1746 Coming Back One by One. Chapter 1746 Coming Back One by One. The Shun clan in the Central Emperor realm. The divine light of space shone brilliantly above the Shun clan. Countless people of the Shun clan raised their heads and looked at the sky. Then they saw a door of space open, and a line of people walked out. They were all cultivators in the Renhuang plain with calm, majestic bearing. The several ones leading ahead seemed to be emitting divine light from their bodies. Another group of people walked upward toward them. The head of the group was the clan lord of the Shun clan and the chief elder Shinji. The two most important figures in the Shun clan welcomed the guests in person. "It's Shingao." Many elders were excited, watching the leaders of the Shun clan leap into the air. "Who is that?" The younger generation didn't recognize him. Shingao. He was once the most talented cultivator in the entire Shun clan. He cultivates outside of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. Now he's back. One of the elders explained. The cultivators of the Shun clan were electrified. Even though the younger generation never had a chance to meet Shingao, they all heard plenty of his stories from the senior people in the clan. He was one of the top 3 cultivators in the Shun clan. How powerful could he be these days? "You're back." The clan lord looked at Shingao and cracked a smile. Shingao hadn't come back for many years. It was extremely difficult for him to come back and visit. He needed to have the Great Emperor's special permission. The Great Emperor probably closed the passage to protect the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. After all, the Great Emperor was the one who ended the chaotic period several hundred years ago. The 3,000 realms of the Great Path was in a much worse turmoil at that time. They suspected that Dong Huang, the Great Emperor, might clear the passage Once they saw that the gate of hell manifested itself in the hidden land realm. It turned out that the great emperor indeed opened the gateway to the outside world. Now Shen Gao is back. They are from our clan in the upper worlds. Shen Gao pointed at the people next to him and introduced them to the leaders of the Shen clan. The master cultivators from the Shen clan certainly guessed it already. In fact, their relationship with the Shen clan in the outside world was almost non-existent because of the closed gateway. With little to none contact and separate establishments, they could be seen as two independent groups. However, they still shared the same bloodline of the Shen clan. Moreover, the ancestors of the Shen clan really were at the same level as the great emperor. But it was so long ago. Many emperors perished, and only some of them had descendants survived until today. The Shen clan was a branch of those descendants. Many people in the younger generation thought it was only a folk tale, and plenty of people outside of the clan sneered at their arrogance and pomposity. Only the core figures in the Shen clan knew that it was a fact that truly happened in history. Of course, it was hard to say how strong the bloodline remained to be generations after generations. Please, the clan lord spoke. People walked downward at once toward the sacred hall. Shen clan had always been a top force in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. Their heritage and background were beyond doubt. Now that they reconnected with the Shen clan from the outside world, they would maintain their status in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, even if there were major upheavals in the future. Guide Song, the sovereign of the Golden Divine Nation, had been waiting for something in the past few days. Numerous majestic and imposing golden halls lined up in the vast palace of the Golden Divine Nation. The Golden Divine Nation had enjoyed its prosperity for many years. It was the most powerful group in the higher heavens realm, except for the Divine Palace. Finally, the Golden Divine Light shone brightly above the nation on this day. Everyone in the palace raised their heads to look at the sky. The dazzling Golden Divine Light almost blinded them. Then, countless people in the palace saw several figures appeared. Wearing golden robes, they looked like a group of gods and stood in midair above the palace of the Golden Divine Nation. The scene put many cultivators in the palace on high alert. The guards of the palace leaped into the air and unleashed tremendous energy to deter the intruders. "Back off!" a thunderous voice ordered from inside of the great hall. The guards and the bystanders stepped aside immediately. In the meantime, many commanders and divine generals of the Golden Divine Nation jumped into the air and bowed at the incoming figures. "Welcome the Celestial Emperor back." Sounds of greetings reverberated in the sky and made the hearts of the guards on the ground tremble. The Celestial Emperor. He was the brother of the sovereign of the Golden Divine Nation and a legendary cultivator with terrifying power. He would be the sovereign of the Golden Divine Nation if he didn't leave. And now he was back. Guide Song stepped forward to Guide Qiong and spoke loudly. "I was just thinking that it was about time for you to come back." The great emperor ordered to open the gate. "That's why I asked for his permission to come back," said Guide Qiong. "How is our nation these days?" Guide Song's eyes were steely after hearing Guide Qiong's question. He said, "You never met your two nephews. They were very talented. I was hoping that they could follow you to the upper worlds. But now they're gone." "They're gone." Guide Qiong frowned. "They were killed," said Guide Song. Bang! A horrifying golden storm surged. Beams of intimidating golden light shot out from Guide Qiong's eyes. "They were killed." "Who dared to kill them?" Guide Qiong's tone was icy cold and menacing. "Let's talk after we get down," Guide Song replied. "What kind of a sovereign are you?" Guide Qiong said coldly. "Take me to catch the murderer." His voice was incredibly assertive and made everyone in the palace shake with fright. He was the only person in the entire Golden Divine Nation who dared to speak to the sovereign in such tone. After all, he was the older brother of the sovereign. Rumor had it that he handed over the throne to his younger brother back in the days. He was the divine general under the great emperor and was powerful enough to command any situation. One might well imagine his feeling now that he heard his nephews were murdered. "I am inadequate for sure for not being able to take revenge for them," said Guide Song. "However, the enemies are not weaker than the Golden Divine Nation. Let's talk later." Guide Qiong glared at Guide Song, then walked downward. He was still stern and grim. He and Guide Song fought hard to make the Golden Divine Nation a strong and prosperous country. He followed Dong Huang, the great emperor, and he had achieved miraculous feats in battles several hundred years ago. Even though the youngsters nowadays might not know who he was, no one from the older generation wasn't familiar with his name. The Golden Divine Nation became the most powerful force in the higher heavens realm because of his and Guide Song's overwhelming dominance. Nevertheless, the first thing he heard after coming back was that the princes of the Golden Divine Nation, the nephews he never met, were killed by people. The Nantian Divine Kingdom in the Central Emperor Realm. Emperor Nan stood in a pavilion and gazed into the distance. A woman with a graceful figure and gorgeous face walked toward him from behind. She was Empress Luo. "What are you thinking about?" Empress Luo came to Emperor Nan and whispered. Emperor Nan smiled tenderly at her and answered in a soft voice, "We have enjoyed peace and quiet for several hundred years. A storm is ahead of us again." The great emperor already unified the divine prefecture. The 3,000 realms of the Great Path are stable and secure. I don't think we would be affected even if there was some disturbance. Who knows what will happen in the future? Qinghe came back, and the gate of hell reopened. Some forces might not be resigned to the current arrangement, and the great emperor would never step in personally, said Emperor Nan. Besides, maybe the great emperor didn't intervene before, because he has some ideas in mind. Don't think too much about it. Few people in the outer realms can threaten us, let alone here, Empress Luo said with a smile. She had absolute confidence in Emperor Nan's ability. All right. Emperor Nan nodded. Maybe you would be even stronger if you followed the great emperor to the outer realms back then, said Empress Luo. It's not that simple. I'm already approaching the end of the great path. Emperor Nan laughed. Besides, I'm contented with what I chose. These peaceful years after Luotian was born are the happiest time in my life. He held Empress Luo in his arms and let her lean on his shoulder affectionately. You're probably tired of those things, Empress Luo said in a gentle voice. Back in the old days, Emperor Nan was a formidable fighter who killed countless people with the Qinghe divine sword. People who only knew him in these quiet years could hardly imagine how he was like in the past. I only want to take care of Luotian, said Emperor Nan. Luotian is a grown-up now in the Renhuang Plain. You still treat her like a child, Empress Luo said gently, even though she did the same herself. Luotian would always be a child in their eyes, no matter what plane she reached. Moreover, Luotian will find someone who can protect her in the future, just like I did. Empress Luo suddenly thought of something. She continued as a look of concern made her furrow her eyebrows. But I'm a little worried. What are you worried about? Emperor Nan asked. I want Luotian to find the best man, even better than us. However, to find someone who can surpass you. Empress Luo looked at Emperor Nan while speaking. Are you praising me? Emperor Nan gazed at her lovingly. It's the truth. Empress Luo sighed. Emperor Nan nodded and said, Luotian certainly deserves to have the best. Only one person in this generation is good enough for Luotian. The one in the Heavenly Mandate Academy? Empress Luo asked. Yes. Emperor Nan nodded. You like him so much? Empress Luo said. Isn't Jian Qingzhu from the Tianqian Academy also an extraordinary young man? They're not the same. Jian Qingzhu is exceptionally talented, but he is too disciplined and conventional, and will never be a trendsetter. Yi Futian, on the contrary, will either fade out halfway, or become a game-changer who symbolizes a new era, Emperor Nan added. If that's the case, he is still not the right person for Luotian. Yi Futian was destined to experience the carnage of war. It was not what he had in mind for his daughter. We're getting too far ahead of ourselves, Empress Luo laughed. Emperor Nan nodded. They were indeed planning for something too further down the road. But a storm was around the corner. The 3,000 realms of the Great Path would surely meet a time of turbulence again. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. In the Heavenly Mandate Academy, Yi Futian was training in a matrix. In the Heavenly Mandate Academy, Yi Futian was training in a matrix. In the independent space, it was like a world of its own. In this space, countless sharp swords appeared around his body. Right now, the various sharp swords were resonating. Sword will immediately swept out in the space and formed a wild storm of swordsmanship. The murderous intent it emanated was astonishing. Yi Futian's figure floated up into the sky. When the various sharp swords resonated, a divine sword was formed and appeared before him. At the same time, the divine sound of the great path resonated, strengthening the sword will. The entire space was on the brink of being shredded into pieces. Everything was about to be crushed into dust under such a terrifying sword will. Finally, Yi Futian opened his eyes. An alarmingly sharp light flashed in his eyes. In that instant, everything came to a halt. However, the very next moment, myriads of unparalleled sword will erupted in every inch of the space. A divine sword was drawn. Its sword flashes pierced through the space at an unbelievably fast speed. It was as bright as a beam of light, causing those who looked at it to narrow their eyes. Thunk! With a thud, the sword struck a spot. All the accumulated sword will seemed to explode from that spot. A scary storm that could tear everything apart erupted with that spot as its center. Everything was about to turn into dust. The sword will dissipated. Yi Futian revealed a satisfied smile. He applied the halberd techniques that he had comprehended in the past in his swordsmanship. On top of that, he merged the offense techniques of the Great Path with his sword. The might of his sword now was not any weaker than that of fleeting divine sword. Yi Futian turned around while smiling. He stared at the beautiful figure, who was standing behind him. He approached her with a smile saying, "How was it?" Hua Jiyu's eyes were crystal clear. She looked at him while replying, "If I was to take this sword head-on, it could turn me into dust." "Silly, why would my sword be pointed at you?" Yi Futian said gently, "Don't say such things again." Hua Jiyu nodded slightly. "What is this technique called?" Yi Futian pondered for a moment. Then he replied, "Let's name it dust." "It has a nice ring to it," Hua Jiyu said. "All right. It's time for you to train. I will observe you," Yi Futian suggested with a smile. Hua Jiyu nodded in agreement. She had no qualms with his suggestion. Besides, she was not at all concerned about training in front of Yi Futian. She had gotten used to it these past few years. Before this, cultivators from Brahma's pure sky had approached her a few times to invite her to train with them. However, she still preferred to train with Yi Futian. She couldn't quite put to words this kind of feeling. But since they were a married couple, this was considered normal, right? Other people noticed the interaction between the two of them too. Regardless of Zhuge Mingyue or Lu Qinyu, they were all very happy for Yi Futian. Jiyu didn't know what had happened in the past. But perhaps even if the other Jiyu was back, she would still fall in love with Yi Futian. Maybe their love was fated. They were destined to be together anyway. After Yi Futian concluded his training, Lulan Shui came to find him. "Where are Ninyu and Qingyao?" Yi Futian asked Lulan Shui. "They are with Lord Taixian. People from the Xiao clan and Yuanyang clan are here. They want to see you. But since you were training, we didn't disturb you," Lulan Shui reported. "Next time when they are here, you can call me right away if I am not engaged in an important training," Yi Futian said. "All right." Lulan Shui nodded. "Let's go." Yi Futian walked towards the conference hall of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Many people had come from the Xiao clan and Yuanyang clan. They had been waiting for him there. Lord Taixian and Ninyu were there too. When Ninyu and Qingyao saw Yi Futian, they walked up to him. Yi Futian put his arms around their shoulders and smiled. Then he looked at everyone else in the hall saying, "Are seniors here because of the recent happenings?" "Yes." A cultivator of Xiao clan nodded and said, "The incident at Juyo City has stirred up quite a commotion. Right now many things have happened in the Hidden Land realm. The entire Hidden Land realm is affected. Moreover, we received news saying that Donghuang the Great has activated the passageway. Many cultivators from the outer realms are making their way here." It had been 300 years since a large batch of cultivators had entered the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. They had enjoyed peace for more than 300 years. Yi Futian's battle with the Sheng clan last time could be considered the greatest war they had for the past 300 years. We also have not so good news, a cultivator of Yuanyang clan said. Shen Gao of Shen clan is back. He has also brought along quite a few strong cultivators with him. We are worried that Shen clan might come to harm you again. Who is Shen Gao? Yi Futian asked. He is one of the top 3 giant figures of the Shen clan. In the past, he was the most monstrous figure in the Shen clan. He was stronger than Shinji. Nobody knows which plane he is at now. The cultivator of Yuanyang clan explained. Shen Gao is not the only one who is back. I heard Gai Qiong of Golden Divine Nation is back too. Gai Qiong is the elder brother of Golden Divine Nation's dynastic overlord, Gai Tsang. Back then, Gai Qiong could have claimed the spot of dynastic overlord, but he gave it to Gai Tsang. His ability is stronger than that of Gai Tsang. These two are also people who murder decisively. The way they do things is exceptionally overbearing. If they knew of what had happened before, they could appear in the heavenly mandate realm at any moment. This change was something that the various major forces had not imagined. The opening of the gate of hell in Jiuyo City resulted in the passageway being opened up once again. The pressure that the Heavenly Mandate Academy faced was huge. Yi Futian's expression turned serious as he said, "It seems that after this, we need to be alert." However, even if 2 giant figures were to return, without being certain that they can eliminate us, they will not dare to carelessly attack us. The destructive power of these giant figures was absolutely frightening. Back then, Yi Futian had led a huge army against the Shen clan. They had a huge advantage, and yet did not dare to truly attack the Shen clan. Why was that? It was because the giant figure in the Shen clan was around. They could not kill him. If they had attacked, everyone beneath the level of the giant figures would have perished on both sides. Similarly, although their opponent had 2 returning giant figures, they also had such considerations. They would not easily make a move against the Heavenly Mandate Academy. We also need to be ever cautious. The teleportation matrix needs to be well guarded, a cultivator from the Yuanyang clan said. Futian, you need to be exceptionally careful yourself. Junior knows. Yi Futian nodded his head. He was the core figure of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. If anything happened to him, problems would occur even among the alliances of the various major forces, let alone in the Heavenly Mandate Academy. However, this storm and the opening of the passageway might also be an opportunity, a cultivator from the Shao clan said. There has not been an incident like this for hundreds of years. Now the 3,000 realms of the Great Path can once again come in contact with the outer realms. This is an opportunity. Are you saying that Futian should venture out to train? Lord Taixian asked. Among the members of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, there are many cultivators with flawless divine wheels. If the passageway can be opened for long periods of time in the future, venturing out to train will definitely be beneficial for them. We do not know what will happen in the future. For now, we'll take it one step at a time, Lord Taixian said. Just as they were discussing this matter in the Heavenly Mandate Academy, above Heavenly Mandate City, divine light shone down from the heavens. Then a group of silhouettes descended from the sky. The citizens of Heavenly Mandate City were alarmed. Even the aura emanated subconsciously by this group of people shocked them. This group of visitors was none other than cultivators from the Shen clan. The leader of the group was Shen Gao. Aside from Shen Gao, the cultivators that had followed him from the outer realms were also here. Shen Hao and a few members of the Shen clan were also here. Their figures landed in an inn. Many people immediately made way for them. Some people had already recognized the cultivators of the Shen clan. From afar, gazes were also looking over here. The cultivators of the Shen clan had come to Heavenly Mandate City. Was something big about to happen again? Back in the day, this place belonged to the Heavenly Mandate dynasty, right? Shen Gao asked. When he was still around, the old dynastic overlord of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty was still the ruler of this place. Yes. Heavenly Mandate dynasty was eradicated by the alliance of forces in the Heavenly Mandate realm. Someone from Shen clan replied. The Heavenly Mandate Academy is built on the spot where the palace of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty used to be. Yi Futian had just broken through to the Runhuang plain, but he had the ability and courage to unite and lead the forces to eradicate Heavenly Mandate dynasty. Besides that, he also challenged and defeated the Shen clan. Shen Gao commented. He is indeed an exceptional talent. I am somewhat impressed by him. Shen Gao's standards were very high. He had seen countless talented figures in the outer realms. However, it was still uncommon for someone to be able to accomplish so many things at Yi Futian's level. Hence, if Shen Gao looked past the fact that they were on opposite sides, this Yi Futian was indeed a rare talent. Shen Hao felt slightly embarrassed as he sat at the side. Moreover, he entered the god's relic and acquired the relic of Donghuang the Great. Someone from outer realms added on with a smile. I am rather interested in meeting him. Someone, please make a trip to the Heavenly Mandate Academy and ask Luoxue to come and meet me, Shen Gao ordered. I will go. A cultivator of the Shen clan offered while standing up. Shen Gao nodded in agreement, and the cultivator flew into the sky, moving in the direction of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. At the same time, far from where the group from the Shen clan was, another group was sitting in a tavern. This group was also from the outer realms. One of them spoke up. There, someone is here for the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Based on their conversation, it seems like they have a grudge with the Heavenly Mandate Academy, another person added. Are you interested in the Heavenly Mandate Academy too? Suddenly, a voice was transmitted to the group from afar. It was Shen Gao's voice. An overbearing might followed his words, pressing down on the group. An elder in the group frowned. He emanated an equally astonishing aura. His aura was also domineering. It was not any weaker than that of Shen Gao. We heard some rumors about the Heavenly Mandate Academy, so we are here to have a look, another figure who sat in the tavern said with a smile. Shen Gao revealed a strange expression, let alone the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. Even in the outer realms, his plane of cultivation was at the level of mighty cultivators. After all, after one reached his level, there was no higher plane to break through to. Above the Heavenly Mandate Academy, a silhouette walked over from the sky. This person was bathed in radiant divine light. He was a cultivator of the Shen clan. Above the Heavenly Mandate Academy, a silhouette walked over from the sky. This person was bathed in radiant divine light. He was a cultivator of the Shen clan. Other figures rose up into the sky and blocked his path. Their auras were powerful. The gaze of the cultivator from the Shen clan swept across the crowd. His gaze then turned towards the inside of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. With a loud voice he said, Shen Luoxue, uncle wants you to go see him. The person who had come was from the same generation as Shen Luoxue. As for Shen Gao, he was a cultivator that was the same generation as the Shen clan's lord. The current Shen clan's lord was the clan brother of Shen Gao. In the Heavenly Mandate Academy, Shen Luoxue was instructing Fei Xue in her training. When she heard this voice, she raised her head. Her gaze shifted towards the outside. Her will immediately swept out. I have already left Shen clan, and am no longer a member of the clan. Who is this uncle that you speak of? Shen Luoxue replied indifferently. Her voice did not seem loud, but it was directly transmitted outside from a distance and reached the other party's ears. Many cultivators appeared in the Heavenly Mandate Academy. The various cultivators that were in discussion with Lord Taixian walked out. Yi Futian looked towards the outside of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Had Shen clan come knocking on their door again? This time, they had directly asked Granny to go meet with a member of the Shen clan. The uncle that the other party was referring to must be Shen Gao, one of the 3 pinnacle figures of the Shen clan that Yi Futian had heard of prior to this. Had Shen Gao already arrived in the Heavenly Mandate City? Lord Taixian stood there, his clothes fluttering in the wind. His will immediately swept out. In an instant, it enveloped the endless space and the vast and grand Heavenly Mandate City. Silhouettes directly appeared in his mind. Very quickly, his will locked on to a spot. It focused on an inn. There a group of cultivators was sitting there and quietly drinking wine. One of them seemed to have sensed his will and lifted his head slightly. His gaze directly pierced through the space. He actually locked gazes with Lord Taixian across such a long distance. It was as though they could see each other directly. Shen Gao lowered his cup, and his will similarly descended upon the Heavenly Mandate Academy. From afar he said, I remember that when I left, you were still young. As expected, you have grown now. You won't come even though I want to see you? Shen Luoxua got up. Her figure gradually floated up into the air. Her eyes looked far off into the distance. She naturally also saw Shen Gao and the other cultivators. I'll head over there, Shen Luoxua said. With the pride of the clan, it was natural to be unable to tolerate their clansmen from acting recklessly and sullying the honor of the clan. Hence, the actions of his clan brother could not be considered wrong. I have severed my relationship with Shen clan. I am no longer a member of the clan. Hence, I cannot call you uncle, Shen Luoxua said. You have not sought me out just so that I would call you uncle, right? Shen Gao smiled as he shook his head and said, You are still so stubborn. I remember when you were young, you once said that you would achieve great things in the future. Back then, I had also treated you quite well. Now that I have purposely come here to see you, you don't need to treat me as your enemy. Everything from back then is already in the past. I do not wish to bring it up again. Shen clan was long dead to Shen Luoxua. Her heart was like still water. She appeared exceptionally peaceful. Although I was born in Shen clan, you must have already known about everything that the clan did to me. Now that you have already chosen a side, then save the reminiscing. Shen Luoxua continued saying. Just tell me straight. What do you want? If I wanted to invite you to return, would you still be willing to return to the clan? Shen Gao said. In the issue back then, both you and your father were in the wrong. However, in the end, you are both linked by blood. You cannot escape your birth parents no matter how hard you try. Why don't you let go of all that has happened? Let go. Shen Luoxua gave Shen Gao a cold stare and said, My daughter was murdered by the clan. Back then, did anyone tell Shen clan to let the matter go? It is all in the past. The blood of the Shen clan still flows in your veins. You cannot escape from it just because you want to, Shen Gao replied calmly. Shen Luoxua could naturally tell that within Shen Gao's calm voice, an unparalleled might was contained. She laughed mockingly. Each person had their own point of view. Shen Gao had advised her to let the matter go. Naturally, he did so for the clan. However, he had not considered her point of view. I have already escaped, Shen Luoxua replied indifferently. Shen Gao glanced at her, and then shifted his gaze towards Futian. He said, Was it you that led the alliance of cultivators that slaughtered their way into Shen clan? Futian looked towards Shen Gao and replied, That's not quite how it happened. It was Shen Ji from Shen clan, who slaughtered his way into the Heavenly Mandate Academy. It is all the same, Shen Gao responded as he looked at Futian. Your ties with Shen clan runs deep. You also have extraordinary talent. Since we have such ties, why don't we bury the past in the past? I can decide on behalf of the Shen clan. We can let bygones be bygones. You can also advise Luoxua to let this all go. We can each make a compromise. Luoxua can return to the clan. Shen Gao continued to persuade Futian. Futian had turned to leave. However, he saw that above the inn, a young, handsome silhouette beside Shen Gao walked out. The aura on his body was extremely powerful. With one step, he traversed the space and walked over towards Futian. He asked, I have heard that among the current generation in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, you are considered number one? Futian turned his head and swept a glance at the other party. This youth's figure shone with divine light. His temperament was no weaker than that of Shen Hao. A blinding divine light also radiated from inside his body and suppressed the power of the Great Path in many people. This was the aura of a flawless divine wheel. Clearly, this person was not a member of the Shen clan of the 9 supreme realms. If the Shen clan had such a member, Futian should have encountered him during the previous battle with the Shen clan. The person was a cultivator of the Shen clan from the outer realms. In an instant, light shone all around. The will of the Great Path swept across this part of the sky. Countless gazes in Heavenly Mandate City turned towards this dazzling silhouette. This cultivator that had come from afar wanted to challenge the legendary figure of this generation, Futian, upon his arrival here. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.